people, purpose, potential, and prosperity. It's time to go beyond business with Sean Nicholas. Brett Campbell, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Super pleased to be here.
That's fantastic. Brett, people can jump online and find out about you. You're right across all the social media and find out about your business, the award-winning media agency that you run, and all the other entrepreneurial activities you're involved in. What I'd really like to do today is go beyond business and firstly find out what's the purpose of business for you.
Depends on what level in the elevator I want to go down. What I mean by that is there's always it allows me to provide freedom and get to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want. But I guess if I really look at it, business for me is the gateway of being able to live every day in accordance to how I personally want to be living. So I'm governed by my own set of values. I'm governed by, the company values that we've created, and the culture and so forth is like a byproduct of me, let's call it. Now, of course, culture and company and so forth has grown with the collective. So it's not just about any one individual, but, I certainly am embedded with that philosophy of being able to live in accordance to my own personal values and business values every single day. And the easiest way for me to do that is to surround myself with that, right? So, of course, business allows me to have an uncapped potential of earnings, which for me is a really, really important thing. And we could probably talk about that, but that's another conversation. But to be able to not be capped on a potential of something really, really interests me. So, whether that's earning income or whether that's the amount of people that you can serve. I originally came from, I guess my entrepreneurial journey started in the health and fitness space. And, I sort of was trading time for money at that stage. I was a personal trainer. So, I was capped in regards to how many people I could personally see one-on-one. So then I created group training, and I was like, well, I want to be able to train like 50 people at once now. And then I was like, geez, I want to train more. So I built a franchise, right? At the time, fastest growing fitness franchise in the country. We had, dozens of locations around the country. And I was like, well, I want to help more people and train more people. So we went online. And so this whole thing about being uncapped for me, there's something that really resonates with that.
That's fantastic. And so where did that start early off in your career of wanting to be an entrepreneur? Did that start off early for you?
Yeah, it did. And I've got an interesting story. I haven't shared this story in a long time, but it's perfect for this. When I was a kid, I used to walk up and down the street, knock on the doors of everyone's house and say, hi, my name is Brett Campbell. I'm wondering if you've got any jobs for me. Right, because I come from let's call it a low socioeconomic area. My mother and sister and myself left Australia when I was 4, separated from my father, and we moved to a very small little town where there wasn't a lot going on. To put it into context, across the road from me was the Black Power gang. Behind us, a street back, was the Mongrel Mob gang. They weren't friends. We had a neighbor who had horses in his backyard, and I'm talking like a residential area. He had horses in his backyard. They'd walk up and down the street and leave the biggest piles of horse shit you could imagine. So that's the sort of place that I sort of grew up in, but I had this ambition to go, there's got to be a way for me to be able to get more or have more. At the time, it was I just needed enough money to play my Street Fighter 20. All I needed was 20-cent pieces, right, to play Street Fighter, play my arcade games, and get my $1 worth of jet plane lollies. That was, for me, that was the goal. And I'm like, my mum can't give me $1, and she certainly ain't going to give me money to waste on a spacey machine or arcade games. So I had to sort of go out and beat the street myself. So I ended up landing a job with a guy who, what he did was he had timber pellets, right? So timber pellets as in, not something like a gun pellet or nothing. Basically when shipments of goods come in and they're on a timber pellet. And what he'd do is he'd go to these big companies who, received a lot of shipments, and he would collect all the sort of broken pallets. And sometimes a broken pallet consisted of just one board on it was sort of broken. And what he'd do is he'd pick them all up, and he would come home, and in his own backyard, he would replace the damaged boards. And so I went and asked him for a job, and he goes, yep, you know how to swing a hammer. And at that stage, I probably would have been about 13 at this stage. So here I am. I was a scrawny little kid then, had no muscle mass at all. But I had the heart of a lion, right? I was lifting these pellets, and I'm ripping off boards with a crowbar. And then I asked him, I said, how much do you make per pellet? How does this work? Because I had no idea, right? He was paying me like $5 an hour. And he goes, I get paid per pellet. So, because what I noticed was there was pellets that I didn't even need to fix. There'd probably be maybe 5 or 10% of the pellets were actually okay. All he did was stack them back on the truck to go send them out to another business, right, and get paid for it. I'm like, shit, yeah, this is pretty interesting. So I was always curious about the economics of something. And I asked, how much do you get paid? And for the sake of mathematics right now, let's say you got paid $5 a pellet. I'm like, $5 a pellet. So in my head, I'm like 5, 10, 15, 20. I'm counting up the truck, and I'm like, holy crap, there's heaps of money here. I'm working, I've just loaded this entire truck up. I'm getting paid $5 an hour. I've been here for 3 hours after school, and I've basically done the entire pallet. I've earned $15. You've earned about $1,500. I was like, there's some serious shit going on here. We need to negotiate, right? So I said to him, what if I reckon I could probably get more pallets done if you paid me per pellet, right? So we ended up working it out. He paid me $1.25 per pellet, right? So I got $1.25 per pellet. And I'll tell you what, my increased productivity went through the flipping roof, right? So instead of getting paid $5 an hour, it worked out to be about $35 an hour with the time and speed and so forth. So for me, that ties back into this thing of, I'm always looking to push the barriers, and I don't want to ever have uncapped abilities around me, right? So whether that's in my own potential, or whether that's in income earnings, or whether that's in impact, it's certainly stemmed. I've probably got a dozen of those type of stories where I've always tried to push the envelope. And I think it's super important that we as individuals are always trying to, push ourselves to the ceiling, and breaking through the ceiling into the next level.
Yeah, wow. A great early entrepreneurial, it's almost like a genetic thing that you've got there driving you in terms of seeing that and looking for the opportunity for potential, which is fantastic. Brett, one of the things about possibility and potential is that we really don't know what our potential is until we step beyond our current experience and step into that new experience. So when you were starting your business in the media company, we'll focus on, what was your vision at the start, and was it the vision that you see now, or how do you level up?
Yeah. So I've got, I think 5 companies, and I can tell you, if we're talking about Campbell Media Group right now, this is probably the only company that I've really gone into it with the lenses. It's that whole hindsight, right? It obviously led me to this position of where we are today. But from day one, the line in the sand was drawn that we're going to become the best digital growth agency in the world. We've not steered away from that. And I actually talk about this quite a lot, because I think this is a powerful lesson for all business owners, is that you need to go into it with the mindset. If you want to have a $100 million a year company, you need to go into it from day one with a $100 million mindset, right? You need to be making decisions based upon getting towards that outcome that you're looking to achieve, right? A lot of businesses, and I speak for myself here with a number of my other companies, just to their credit, they've done well purely because of my relentlessness and desire to try and make it work, right? But there are easier ways to do this stuff, and this is one of them. So I think, going into it with the mindset of the connection to the ultimate vision, and for us, it's like, how do you become the number one, right? Then you can break it down, and you can look at all the subsets and so forth that fall within that. But what it does is it holds you to accountability, right? Where if you just fall into a business, I don't really know. Like the amount of business owners I speak to, and they're like, and I'm like, well, what's your forecast? What's your targets? What's your KPIs this month? How's your business growing? When are you going to double, triple, whatever? What does your next 3-year forecast look like? They've got no idea. And I relate to that because when I built our fitness franchise, I put up a sales page and sent it out to my database, and it went berserk, right? It went absolutely, just blew up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I probably should have thought and asked myself if I wanted to build it, right? So I've done a lot of things backwards. But in this case, from day one, it was super clear, draw the line in the sand. We're going to become the best, and we need to make decisions in accordance to best. So what that means is, are we going to skimp out and try and get the cheap $20 a month software, or go, we need to pay for the $200 software, right? And that's just one decision. Does that mean we're going to try and get talent and pay minimum wage, or are we going to pay above minimum wage? Are we going to pay good rates for our talent? So it's really making decisions in accordance to that. So definitely important.
Yeah, excellent. So your clarity of that $100 million business, or what the vision of the business is. And
let me clarify there, 100 million plus, like it's plus. Not capping that, right? That's an important distinction, because if you set that mark as a $10 million business, it's like, good luck trying to reach that. You need to be far exceeding that.
Yeah. But that's the marker that you're focusing on driving to at the moment, because then you're at another level in another experience, and you're looking at $1 billion type vision.
Correct.
That gives you that focus and clarity. So how do you get that vision permeating through your business to your people?
Well, again, that's a really good question. That's led by, one, being super clear on the vision, having a set of core values that everyone within the team buys into, right? That ethos. And then the most important thing of all, right? Because so many businesses understand this vision, mission, values concept, and they have this nice little statement, and they have these cool values like, be bold and, celebrate success. And don't get me wrong, those are two actual part of our core values. However, you've got to actually live it. You've got to eat it. You've got to breathe it. You've got to, it's got to be embodied within you and the organization and everything that you do. So that's where the rubber really hits the road. So for us, it's from day one. I remember when we had like a team there was only 3 of us. One of the cool things that we do at the end of the week, and I actually got this from a great friend of mine, their business. I wish I made it up, but it was, we do at the end of the week, it's called a Made It Happen circle, right? And we sit down and we reflect and we share appreciation to each other, and where we've been able to support each other and great things that we've done. So we're really embodying that culture of, we're all here to make a difference for our clients, and that's what matters, right? And then as a byproduct of succeeding for our clients, we will all internally succeed, right? So embodying it and doing it every single day is the most important thing, because there's no point having a cool mural on the wall that says some fucking famous quote, and then all of a sudden it's like, do you even know what that quote means, or what does it mean to this person, that person, that person? So establishing the, let's call it rules or guidelines that you want to live by, and then actually live by them.
That's it is a powerful lesson, because it's often where businesses, people and corporations go wrong, is they say one thing and do and live another.
Yeah, and because they hire a company to come and let's do a company culture shake-up, and let's do all this and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. But it's like one-off things don't build a culture. It's consistent repetition. It's having this ethos that every single person within the organization buys into. And at the start of this conversation, I alluded to, now, of course, I've navigated those quite, I guess, quite finely myself, in the sense of, created them. But in the same token, it's everyone in the team's got to know what that means. So whenever a new team member joins our team, the first thing that they do on their first day, they spend the first 2 hours with me, where I sit down and I actually talk about our culture. I talk about this grandiose vision, and they've already been indoctrinated through that as well, because we've talked about it in interviews and second interviews. So people are very, very clear on where we're heading to and what that sort of looks like and the expectations around that. But to be able to start when someone comes on, and this is the whole thing about putting it into action, right? So we have this grandiose vision. We want to do this. We want to be the best in the world. Throughout the entire, we're always talking about customer journey, right? throughout your entire team member journey, right? The amount of businesses who don't have this just fucking baffles me, right? You need to know what's the perfect team journey. What's going to make one of your team members a staying, raving fan of evangelist of this business and this culture and this company. So being very intentional with the things that are implemented on a very regular basis is key. And to start their let's call it their induction off with, here's 2 hours and I'm going to just put it out there and here's what we're about, here's what we stand for. And then actually asking them, what does that all mean to you, right? Because this is the thing, like you could have an induction, someone at the front of the room talking, go, here's our values, this, and this. And they go, well, that was a cool little seminar. And they walk out and that's it. It's like, no, there's a two-way street here. Culture's not the founder or, the CEO or the head of whatever department preaching. It's an actual two-way dialogue.
That's fantastic. And so that focus on your team members, their induction, their integration into the business and their growth and their journey, how have you seen that? What I'm getting to is the growth of a business usually revolves around the growth of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so how have you seen that reflect in your business and the companies that you work with?
Yeah, so we realized that very early on at the start, that we're only as good as the people and the team that we create and cultivate and grow. So, to my point around having a very intentionally designed team journey, whether they've been with you for the first week or first month, first year and beyond. One of the things, there we go, just got some good results out there for the team. Beautiful if you heard that little horn. My office looks out to the whole team, so I'm just like, I get distracted. Anyway, good news, one of our clients is winning. So in regards to obviously being intentional, a couple of other things that we do that indicates, number one, to the team that we actually really do care about you and your growth as a person, professionally and personally, is 2 times a week we actually have internal development training, right? So it's paid development training where we're and this right here, right, this is a perfect example. We talk about culture, so we celebrate wins, right? That's how we celebrate wins. So we're not just going, yeah, we won, and someone keeps it quiet and we send an email off to everyone in the team. So we get up and we toot the horn and we clap and so on and so forth. But interesting that happened at this time. So like I said, team training and development is really, really important. But here's the linchpin of it all, and I think the most important part is your team needs to know that you actually do give a fuck, right? That is everything, because mate, I've seen people, and I've just seen it recently this last week, someone run they run a multiple day induction training and for their team, and they thought it was amazing, and then all of a sudden, like last week, their entire team just left. They boycotted, right? And I'm like, now you've actually got to make sure that person in your team understands and believes that you are here to help and develop them. So I've got a I won't call it an unfair advantage, because it's something I've been cultivating for many, many years in regards to the ability to be able to communicate with people on a very empathetic, a very emotional level, and not buy into or get emotionally distracted by whatever's happening with that person. So the years of studying psychology and self-development and a myriad of all the other things that you can learn out there, but being able to cultivate this thing called emotional intelligence, right, to be able to actually sit down and have a conversation with someone and actually pick things up when I was talking about this on a podcast yesterday, this whole thing about the glitch in the matrix, right? If I ever feel a glitch in the matrix, whether it's energetically or I hear something or something goes on, I'm like, my brain, like I'm like, hold on a minute, something there didn't feel right, which to me, because I'm able to be in touch with my own intuition and the energy around me, I can sort of pick up and go, that comment there that someone made was slightly off, and it's not normally them. that's a sign for me just to maybe potentially investigate slightly. So showing that you really care is the number one way to really build a world-class company culture where people will stay back late. They'll come to work early and they're not even thinking about, oh, I've got to stay back late tonight. It's like doing what we've got to do, right? So as long as they know that you actually care, doesn't really matter so much about all the other cool things that you do. They're just cherries on the top. The table tennis table is just a cherry on the top. So creating the environment is the number one most important thing. And then obviously allowing the person to be comfortable in communicating their struggles and concerns and so forth. Because there's so many people sitting out there in an office chair in buildings, so unhappy, waiting for that next thing to come up.
Definitely. Stress and burnout and anxiety and all the areas that I work in are just rampant, which is unfortunate, but we're on the cause to stamp it out or at least make a dent in what's happening there. So how did you come to that realization? Obviously there's some experience in business beforehand of things not working. Was it just a comparison of this isn't working, I have to change? Was it you that had to change first?
Let me sort of break that down a little bit. So I don't think it wasn't that was I doing things wrong. I just think as we progress as people and business people, and the more emotionally intelligent, the more self-aware that I personally become, the more that surrounds me because I'm cultivating that around me, right? I'm planting seeds around me and I'm growing the seeds as well, intentionally growing the seeds. So I'm out there watering them every single day, right? And I think, and this ties back to that ethos of going, we are going to be, so it's not even we want to, we are going to be the number one digital growth agency on this planet. In our first 12 months of operations, we took out the 2018 Best Social Media Agency of the Year award in Australia and New Zealand, et cetera, et cetera. But the point around that is we are so committed to that being reality that all this culture stuff it's a non-negotiable. Like, you cannot build that type of company without having that. So it's almost like when you cast this ultimate vision, if you're smart enough, you'll be able to see all the pieces of the puzzle that need to be a part and along for the ride. Yeah. Right. So if you set a mediocre goal and you're just looking to make, $100,000 a month or something, and you're like, that's my goal, you're probably not going to build a team culture because you don't need to. You can earn $1 million yourself as a solopreneur, basically, really, right? So when you create this grandiose vision, all of those other things start to come into play because they have to be there, or else you're not going to get there.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing, Brett, I come across with entrepreneurs, especially, visionary entrepreneurs, is that they see the vision, they believe in the vision, but sometimes there's this frustration that the vision isn't manifesting fast enough, and they often get stressed and anxious about that. I call it entrepreneurial anxiety. Is that something with this vision? Even maybe not you, but maybe your people see the vision and they sometimes push a bit harder than what they should to get to that vision? Is that something you've experienced?
I have personally and do personally, like, at the heart of it all, one of my own personal values is there's always a faster and better way to do something, right? Which is great because it allows my mind to always be thinking of, is there a faster and better way to do it? And if so, what is it? What I've got to look at, and potentially pivot, etc. So there's no one else out there within our organization running as hard and as fast as me, right? And that sort of goes without saying. Now, that doesn't mean that the team are not hungry and motivated and so forth for that to be the case. I'm the ultimate flag bearer here, right? I sort of play the chief evangelist role within our organization. And it sort of buys back into the concept of, I think if you look at the highest level of leadership, right, is people follow you because of who you are as a person, right? Couple below that is they follow you for what you do, right? So you can lead by example, but who you're becoming along that journey is ultimately the most important. Like, I could be out there leading by example, working 1,000 hours a day, and they're like, wow, he's a workhorse, but I could still be a jerk, right? So making sure that, you know, you're the ultimate flag bearer for your own business, or you've got someone who is, but also ensuring that they're becoming the person that they need to become in order to get the complete buy-in from the entire team. Because this isn't Brett's business. This isn't my business partner's business. This is our business, right? It's every single person, from our junior strategist all the way through our, you know, senior leadership team, etc. We're all committed to making this happen, and we equally share in the wins and just make it a an environment that everyone just wants to be a part of.
Yeah, fantastic. And with that activity and with that enthusiasm, ultimately we want to be operating at our peak, you know, right on the edge, pushing, but coping and maintaining our flow. How do you do that personally? And then how do you put that through the business, maintain that peak performance and not go into that stress zone where you start diminishing your performance? How do you do that?
Something that I've become very conscious of and aware of is every single thing that we're doing happens for a reason. Now, I need to caveat that because that's such a throwaway line where it can be like, oh, yep, cool, everything happens for a reason. You know, it is what it is. But there's deeper meanings to that, right? And when you can consciously and subconsciously become connected to that as your ultimate nucleus, the truth of life. So for me, I truly believe that the speed in which we're operating at right now is the speed in which we're supposed to operate at, which that massively reduces any potential anxiety, right? What it does is if I feel like there's a disconnect between the speed in which we're operating at on this growth towards where we're heading to, if I feel there's a disconnect, that glitch in the matrix, I'm like, I feel like we should be moving way faster. It allows me to stop and assess and look at and go, what is currently stopping us from moving forward faster? So this is where you can jump back logically, right? And you can, I love problem solving, right? So things like that, I love to look at and go, okay, let's break this down. So why aren't we moving? Okay, because of that. Okay, what could we do to improve that? Well, this, or this. Well, what's that going to take? How long are we estimating that could take? Oh, that's going to be another 6 months. Okay, so factually, realistically, we're not going to be able to hit X, Y, Z for another 6 months. I've got to deal with that, right? And be okay with that being the reality, because if not, I'm going to have a really stressful 6 months. I'm going to make bad decisions. I'm going to forecast that onto our team. The team are going to get more stressed out than me, right? I won't be leading by example. I won't be the person that I know I should be to show up every single day for the team. And there's just a cataclysmic bloody breakdown throughout. So I understand the value of remaining level-headed. And don't get me wrong, I have some shit days. I'll go home and, if only the team knew what my thoughts were for the day sometimes. But knowing that that's like clouds, right? Clouds come and they go, they pass. Sometimes they're a lot darker. Sometimes they're just scattered all over the shop. And being able to be cool with and know that that's supposed to be there today. This is how you're supposed to feel today. But then being consciously aware to be able to course correct if you require.
Yeah. So what are some of the strategies you use for dealing with those clouds, those dark clouds as they come into to get clarity and move forward? Yeah,
so thinking it through, like firstly, thinking it through and removing emotion, because this is a big thing. If you can start, acting based on logic and then emotion, you're going to be far more advanced to make bigger steps in any area of your life, right? It's the being able to remove the emotional component, looking at it logically, looking at actually what's really happened, and I see this whenever I'm coaching any sales people, right, where they're like, oh, I ask him, what's your percentage of close rate from lead to close? It'd be about 80%. I'm like, about, or what is it exactly? Oh, I don't know. Well, you're just surmising that it's 80%. Let's go back through your last 20 sales appointments and see how many you've closed. I've done this so many times and people have gone, yeah, 70, 80%. And we've found out it's like 30%. I said, do you know what you've just done? Like you're setting yourself up on this unrealistic landscape. Now, they could go, it's 20% based off the last 3 days that they haven't closed any deals. When you look back and the facts actually state, oh, you've actually closed 60%, right? So I'm a massive advocate of going, what's the actual reality? So whenever the team share a win and they're like, oh, we're winning with this, I'm like, winning, what does winning mean? How are we winning? Oh, we got this, this, and this. I said, yeah, how much is that? How much is this? What is this? Like breaking it down to go, what is it? Because your good is different to my good. Like if I ask you, how's your business going? You're going really good. Like in my mind, it's bloody, you're killing it. But really good could be, yeah, you actually made some profit this week, right? So getting actually very logical and factual about what you're allowing your emotions to buy into is a really great starting point.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm an advocate for reality checks and making sure what is rather than what if, and the stories that come with what if. So that's fantastic. Brett, you also work with entrepreneurs across other businesses, and your clients are obviously entrepreneurial or growing businesses looking to increase their presence in the world. Are there common frustrations? What are some of the frustrations you're seeing with business owners happening?
Yeah, so we work in be close to 40 different industries now, and I can tell you one of the most common, and it's good for us, the most common frustration right now is they don't know how to generate quality leads for their business, which to me is the lifeblood of any business, right? If your sales pipeline is not full or you're not making sales in your e-commerce store, you're missing out big time. You're reducing the impact of your potential business. So I've noticed, and this is a narrative I've been preaching for a little bit now, is that most small business owners and even big enterprise businesses, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars a year, companies, CEOs that I speak to, or CMOs as well, they're looking at marketing with the wrong lens. Like they really are. If we can firstly establish a foundation that marketing, like people hearing and seeing about you and then coming through the process to want to know more, right? Wanting to know more and wanting to buy from you. That's the most important thing in my view, right? You could have the best product, doesn't matter. You could have the best salesperson ever working for you. If he gets one lead a week, he ain't going to do too well, right? Or she's not going to do too well. So if we can just establish that marketing is the foundation, why are businesses not treating it like it's the most important? And let me explain why they're not. Because their budgets, and if we're talking big business here, their budgets are based off just fucking ridiculous financial spreadsheets going, oh, we need to spend 4% on marketing. It's like 4%, like what does that even mean? How does that even tie into this overall, growth of your company? Like I see so many big companies, like I say, hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and they don't have like growth plans to grow the business. They just want to stay fucking stagnant almost. I'm like, I don't get it. Small business owners, right, the team under 10 type thing, even under 20, a lot of them think that they should be doing it themselves. Like marketing has created this stigma. And I heard this a few weeks ago. Someone's like, yeah, I want to do marketing because it's fun and, marketing's cool. I'm like, you're thinking old school branding, like let's go and create something fun and eccentric and put it out there to the world. It's like, fuck, that ain't making sales, right? How's this thing going to make dollars in the bank? That's what we really need to look at. That's the ultimate outcome. And so people are looking at marketing wrong. They're still seeing it as something that they should do themselves, or they can do themselves, or they're going to throw it off to their admin who can do it sort of part-time in between answering phone calls and stuff. It's like, my gosh, the reason why you see a lot of posts out there, and I'm not sure, I'm assuming here, but I probably see a lot more because I'm in this realm. A lot of people asking about how, like Facebook, and how do you do this, and what type of ads should I use, and should I do videos, this or that, should I use dynamic product ads, blah, 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 these questions, right? I'm like, the reason why we're hearing so much of that is because Facebook itself, and if we're talking there like paid advertising, whether the questions are on Facebook or LinkedIn or anything, it's such a new industry. It really is a new industry. It's not established. So there's a lot of people out there thinking they can do it alone. When taxes came in, right at the very, very start of business and so forth, most people would do their own taxes, right? Most people do their own taxes, right? You don't see any questions now online going, hey, what do I put in the W1 column about wages and tax liability and so forth? You don't see that because no one's sitting there doing their own BAS statements, right? We realize that accounting is its industry, and we pay people, we pay them good money to save us money. How about paying really good money to a fantastic marketing team who's going to make you money? Like, it's weird. It's like flipped on, it's upside down. And this is sort of something that I'm out there and in the marketplace, really having these conversations, try and wake business owners up to go, there's an easier way to do this. You know, there's an easier way to do this. And I get it, because there's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there who are experts in paid advertising when they've never spent any of their own money to start with. It's another conversation. But you have to be very, very aware of what you're getting into. But I'm telling you right now, all businesses need to start taking marketing seriously, right? There's a lot more competition, but there's also a lot more opportunity. And business owners who are trying to do it themselves, when you're spending an hour or 3 hours or 10 hours or 30 hours a week on your marketing, that's 30 hours a week you're not spending on growing your sales team, growing your culture, growing the education of your team, growing the vision of your business. Just doesn't happen.
Yeah, well, and when they're frustrated and they're not getting the results, maybe because they haven't got the expertise and they haven't got the team and they haven't got the knowledge, then they're in this spiral of frustration and spending money and throwing their hands in the air and saying, it doesn't work, la, 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 and they're down the track from there. So one of the
we have a lot of conversations with businesses where they say it doesn't work, and I'll go, let me just help you out with that for a second. It didn't work.
Yeah,
right? It didn't work because we are making it work for a lot of businesses right now, making it rain for them. Yeah. Is it harder than it was 6 months ago, 12 months ago? Yes. Was it harder today than when I started Facebook advertising like 8 years ago in 2009? So actually, that's way longer. It's like nearly 10 years ago. You know, when all I had to do was put an ad up and put money, decide how much money I wanted to pay and just get a fantastic return. Yeah, it was a lot easier back then. But that's why that's why there was no business or industry for it back then, because anyone who could click a mouse pad basically could go into Facebook or Google ads and you could make money. Now it's a specialized industry that requires more than just how do you run an ad. You need to take the creative into place, right? The imagery, the video, the emotions that you're expelling through your creative is massively important. The words you use, right? The persuasion, the influence, the hypnosis that we're using in the written word to be able to get someone to go from A to Z it's a highly specialized skill now. You know, we've got a team of dedicated copywriters, team of creative team where we're designing and creating content, right? We've got a strategy team because strategy is just as important than anything. Strategy underpins the entire concept because you can go and create a good ad, but if it's not tied to your overall strategy, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And one of the things with people out there doing so much or even do-it-yourself stuff, there's more noise out there. And so what you're saying is more important to actually have a focused strategy, clear communication, targeted to your clients to align the right client with your business.
100%. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'd rather be talking to my perfect client every single day than people who are never, ever going to do business with us. Yeah. It's putting the right message in front of the right person at the right time.
That's excellent.
Too many business owners are doing the right thing at the wrong time.
Okay, explain that. Explain that. They're doing the right thing at the wrong time.
Yep.
I like the concept of that. Explain that, how that plays out in a business, or how has it played out for you in your experience, doing the right thing at the wrong time?
Jesus, probably 1,000 of these. So I'm the guy that learnt how to do everything, right? I was the guy that when I decided that the internet was going to be my vehicle, I learnt how to HTML code web pages because there was no drag and drop builders there. I learnt all that. I connected like not just one shopping cart. I like tested them all out, right? Because I was like, I don't know, this one that's like $8 cheaper. I might be able to use that one. I'm going to test it and check it out. So I learnt the tactile. I was doing all the right things just at the wrong time. I was just trying to learn every piece of the puzzle, and to my advantage, right? Unless you're going to go and create the number one digital growth agency on the planet, don't go and learn all that stuff. Now I can use all that knowledge, and because it's definitely not a waste of time, and it gives me a very, very, very unique outlook on not just, sort of sitting at the 30,000 foot view and looking down. I can see from that tactile, because I have been that person who sat there writing ads, doing ads, building web pages, creating strategy, designing images. So all of those things, you could argue they're the right thing to potentially do, just at the wrong time. I was trying to, there was one when I first launched my ever workout program. I went straight to trying to build a PDF and create this product before I even thought about, what does this mean and where's this moving to? And so you can argue that there's a lot of right things that we could be doing. Just we need to check in and go, is this the right time to do that though? Is it the right time for you to go and buy a huge office and kit it out right now?
Yep.
Right. It might be the right thing in 6 months, 12 months, but is it the right thing now? So I always use that as a bit of an indicator to go, great, okay, this is cool. Is this decision a now decision or a later decision?
Yep. So the technique to get the right things happening at the right time that you use is simply asking those questions. Is it as simple as that for you?
Yeah, I do. I go through actually there's probably a self-identified checklist of, if I do this, what's the impact? Like, what impact will this have? The positive, the negative, right? Is this something that Brett Campbell's just doing because he's excited? Like, because I'm quite an excitable person. Like, I can get excited really easy by a big idea, right? Is this a Brett Campbell just getting excited, or is this actually going to actually get us towards this ultimate vision, this bigger outcome? And then I go, if in 6 months, if in 6 months this does happen, will I still do I think I'll still feel the same, right? So just really future forecasting, go, oh no, I'm just excited now because of this. Or you can generally find other areas of your life, things that happen can very, very, very easily persuade your current decision for something else. So I do become quite logical. I do, even another thing is having a brain's trust of people that you can reach out to and talk to and discuss certain ideas and get feedback that is genuinely going to be great feedback. Like, I'm not going to go to my mum and ask her financial advice, right? Because she's got no bloody idea, right? Even though if I seek comfort from my mum's feedback, it's like I'm getting the wrong feedback. So having a brain's trust in your own personal network of people who you reach out to for certain things. Like, I'm not going to go to a mate who's just got divorced and ask him marriage advice, So being very cautious of where you're getting advice from. I don't get any advice from social media. I assure you of that. What I use, yes, so social media is a cesspit of people's opinions trying to be forecasted onto you, and they've got no freaking idea of context. Like, it baffles me the amount of time someone will ask a question and people just go, here's my opinion. It's like, you haven't even clarified any questions. You haven't even seek to understand. And I get it. People are just trying to be nice and helpful. I'm not here to bash anyone, because I've probably done it in the past where I'm like, yeah, you should do that. Right. But the reality is, the more consciously aware of it you become, you go, well, I need to make sure I'm especially when it comes to big decisions, you put it through a filter. You have to have your own personal filter, and if people are part of that filter, or actual questions are a part of that filter, then, because what can happen sometimes with a big decision is you've just got to look at where the fear is coming from as well, because fear dictates and drives and shifts where we move. And if you go, is this just scared because you just don't know what's going to happen, or you've got no idea what could happen, that's not a bad thing. As long as you know that, yeah, the only thing that I'm saying no to right now is because of this. Like, if I do X, what am I giving up? Because for everything that you say yes to, you're saying no to something else, right? That's a very, very important distinction. So I could baffle on for hours.
No, that's good. Just Brett, as we wrap up, I sense, and people will be getting a sense from you talking, is that you've had a large amount of growth over the years, but your consciousness and your ability to see where you are at this point in time and where you're going is really profound. It's great. Is there a daily practice, or is there a practice that you've used over time to lift your levels of consciousness, to lift your levels of awareness, to grow?
Yeah. The first thing, and I'm not going to sit here and go, here's my morning routine from 5 till 9, because it changes. And sometimes I stay in bed, and sometimes I don't get up to walk. And some days I don't, most days I don't meditate, where some days I do, and all of that. Like, let's just get super clear on that shit. You don't need to buy into an ethos of it has to be regimented every single day.
Yeah.
And I'm just talking from my own experience. Now, don't get me wrong, having a set of guidelines in which you live life by is super important. You know, I wrote in my book, there's a couple of things that I do religiously every single morning and night. First thing is practicing the attitude of gratitude. I think once you can really connect to being grateful for things that you never thought you could be grateful for, gives you just a real different launch pad to see life through, right? It changes the lens in which we're looking at. So you can look at the normal lens, or you can look through the gratitude lens. And every single night before I go to sleep, 10 things that I'm grateful for. In the morning before I get up, 10 things that I'm grateful for. And that took me a while. That took me, a few months to really embed this into my first thing I do. Because tell you what, there's something beautiful about being able to wake up 9 times out of 10, and the first thought you have is, what am I grateful for? Cool, that, right? It really launches something that is very peaceful. Another thing that I regularly do is self-check-in with myself, right? And that's just like, mate, how'd you show up today? Simply, how did I show up today? And I pay attention to this glitch in the matrix thing. Like, I know when I say something, I'm like, what a fucking idiot. Why did I even say that? That's not like me. That must have come across like a total douchebag or this or that, right? And I'm cool with calling myself on it. Right? I'll be in the middle of a podcast. If I say something, I'm like, oh, fuck, that was silly. Take that back. I didn't mean that. Like, I'm not here. I don't have a facade. It's like, it's being cool with checking yourself is very humbling, but that's where the growth comes from. So something happened the other day, and someone told me something, and my first reaction was that of envy. I was jealous, and then I started going on this in my head, right? I'm like, oh, bang, 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 bang. Like, how dare that happen, and how dare for that person, and this and that. But when I actually go, hey, Brett, you got to check yourself, man. What's driving this and why? Right? And really sit and think something through. There's not a lot that bothers me for a long period of time, right? Let's not get that wrong, because there's a lot of shit that bothers me. But I'm like, you're doing your thing again, right? So I know, like we've got this horn right at work, and I introduced it, right? And the fucking sound of it does my head in, right? So I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? Do I go, hey guys, no more horn? So I've sort of cultivated this thing, which the team love it. It's fantastic. It's fun. But for some reason, the vibration I hate, right? I hate the sound of it. So then I had to check myself. I'm like, hold on a minute. This is why I was introduced. This is the value it will bring, and look at the value it's bringing for everyone else. Maybe you just need to take an L on this, right? I just need to go, that's just what it is. It's supposed to be there. And if it gets to a point where I feel the desire to throw that horn away, and it mysteriously doesn't end up in the office anymore, then that was supposed to be the outcome, right? But I can battle through that and go, there's a higher purpose, there's a higher reason for this thing right now. So being able to consciously check in with yourself whenever there's a glitch in your matrix. And I think this is it's a new concept I've really been sort of trying to filter through. And even this right now, right, discussing this and having these type of conversations, it allows you to think through these things, right? I heard Jordan Peterson talk about this, where he said, he was asked the question, why do you think people are compelled to listen to you, right? And I'm just assuming you know Jordan Peterson. Do you know Jordan Peterson?
Yep.
Of course you do, yep. So, because I've been fascinated with that guy for the last 3 years since he popped up onto the scene. because there's something about it. And I'm like, I just can't put my finger on it. I just can't put my finger on it. And me and a friend were talking, and we're like, why are we compelled to listen to this guy? And he goes, well, we both sort of came up, but he goes, it's because it's the logos in action, right? The logos in action. So he's sitting, thinking, working through these thoughts and ways. It's not a pre-scripted bloody dialogue. It's like, okay, he's thinking it through. And this is what I love. I love these conversations where you can sort of, you know, my brain, I can feel it working, and I'm talking about and risking concepts of conversation. Like, you know, I love to, and this is why I love doing a lot of interviews, again, because it allows me to go, okay, and this is probably my own selfish reasons, but you can go on podcasts and all of a sudden someone's on like 10 podcasts. You're like, yeah, I know exactly what that podcast is going to be about. With me, I don't even know what this podcast is going to be about. I'm going to challenge myself and change my ways of thinking and not change them just to change them, but just to, can I build upon them? Is there a different way to think about this? Is there another angle I haven't looked at this? And that concept of the logos in action, I think being able to have your own internal logos in action and check and evaluate yourself, fucking powerful.
I love it, and I am a fan of Jordan Peterson as well. He gets a lot of playtime here at our place. And Brett, I love the concept that you talked about, is that glitch in the system, and it aligns with what
in the Matrix.
In the Matrix,
you got to use the Matrix analogy purely because that movie just blows your mind if you actually go back and watch it.
It does. It's number one on the playlist. Number one on the playlist here. But that glitch in the Matrix, and Jordan talks about it when he talks about authenticity. He talks about this alignment, and we actually feel when we're misaligned, when we're feeling that glitch. And I sense that's what you're talking about, is that alignment coming through, that when you're aligned, you know that's what you're meant to be doing. And when you feel the glitch, you feel that misalignment and you go, what's happening here? Is that how it plays out for you?
So that's the sign, right? The glitch is the sign. And I actually just read this book called Nudge, and it talks about a number of concepts. And one of them being like, if you're in a line and you've got your core values and you've got your set of rules in which you live life by and your non-negotiables, right? So for me, one of mine was to limit swearing, right? I feel swearing, you know, particularly the F-bomb and you know, the S-bomb can be used in specific areas to create greater impact, right? Again, I did a whole podcast on bloody, is swearing okay? So given that being one of my guidelines, like it wasn't, I want to stop swearing, right? Because I didn't truly believe that to be, now could I stop it? I could. But I feel having certain times where I can use it to really hammer a point home, because that comes back to the art of communication and being able to influence and so forth. But now every time I say an F-bomb, like I could go back through now in my mind for the last hour we've been talking and say where I've dropped the F-bomb. It's because I'm so consciously aware of that now, right? So knowing that whilst that's, you know, my value is to reduce, every time I say it, I'm like, have you used it too much yet? Right? So when I do feel I've used it too much, you'll notice me, I won't say it, or I'll cut back, because I'm like, yeah, I've used my quota, right? I've used my quota. So again, that's just coming back to being aware and self-analyzing your current state and when the misalignment or this glitch in the matrix, as I coin it, happens, that's an opportunity for you to go, oh, what's happening around here? So for example, I want to reduce the amount of hot chips that I eat. All right, so I'm on a bit of another fitness cleansing process. You know, the last couple of months I've been very diligent. I used to eat hot chips maybe 3-4 times a week, right? It's easy to go, hey, I'll get a half chicken from Nando's and a side of large chips, right? It's easy to throw that in there because everything comes with a side of potatoes. I always joke, if I was ever lost on an island, all I'd need is Wilson and unlimited potatoes, I'd be fine. But knowing that I want to reduce that, I'm now consciously aware that if fries are presented to me, I now am faced with a decision, you know, and the more in alignment that you are, the more you'll feel the nudge, the misalignment when it occurs. And then that's an opportunity to go, Brett, you don't want to eat them. You want to massively reduce them. You might have had them last night, or you haven't had them in 2 weeks. Then I can sort of go, am I okay with eating hot chips right now? I can make the decision. So when the more in alignment you are, the bigger the gap, right? The bigger the gap from misalignment. And what I mean by that is, if you feel misaligned, if you're very in aligned, it'll give you a few moments to go, It won't be like, and a large chips, and then you're eating them and you're like, oh shit, that's right, I forgot about that. Right. So the more in alignment you can become, the larger your gap is created, and allows you enough stopping and thinking time and evaluating time to make your decision.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And the more that you stay in alignment, the stronger that alignment is, and the gap gets bigger, and you notice the glitches in the matrix, but you might not react to them. So that's
it's like Neo, right? So when the bullets come to Neo and he's really tapped into the matrix, right? So he's got a lot of time to slow it down and maneuver. Where if you're misaligned, that bullet's coming straight at you.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it takes us a while, a few bullets hitting us, to realize that we can do it better and attune more and be in more alignment. Brett, it's been a fantastic time going beyond business with you on the show. I really appreciate your insight, your openness, and your authenticity. It's been fantastic, and I hope people connect with you. They can just look up Brett Campbell online. What's the best way they can connect with you, Brett?
Yeah, look, just find me anywhere online. Just find me on Facebook or Instagram, or you can go to my website, brettcampbell.net. Yeah.
Excellent. Brett, thanks for being on the show.
Absolute pleasure. It was a fantastic conversation. Loved it.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, and review. And be sure to subscribe to Beyond Business with Sean Nicholas.